Today on TimesCast, Mitt Romney championed universal health care as a Massachusetts governor, but now, as a potential Republican presidential candidate, he has some explaining to do. NATO planes strike Colonel Muammar Gaddafi's compound shortly after his first television appearance in nearly 2 weeks. And in Cairo, police officers stand by as crime takes over the city.
For the first time in Cairo, people are afraid to walk in the streets at night.
A lot of pundits around the nation are saying that I should just stand up and say this whole thing was a mistake, that it was just a boneheaded idea, and I should just admit it. It was a mistake and walk away from it. And I presume that a lot of folks would conclude that if I did that, that'd be good for me politically. But there's only one problem with that. It wouldn't be honest. I, in fact, did what I believed was right for the people of my state.
I'm Pam Bellock. I'm a health and medical writer for the New York Times, and I covered Mitt Romney as governor of Massachusetts. I was the Massachusetts bureau chief for the Times. What is interesting to see today is that he made a major speech about an issue that is certain to dog him if he does run for president in 2012. He's trying to both justify his attacks on President Obama's health care plan while at the same time defending the Massachusetts health care plan that he engineered.
Our plan was a state solution to a state problem. And his is a power grab by the federal government to put in place a one-size-fits-all plan across the nation.
This is a complicated path that he's trying to walk here. There are a lot of very core similarities between the two plans. The way that he's trying to strike this difference, for the most part, is to say what we did in Massachusetts was right for us, but it may not be right for every state.
We didn't create a government insurance program or a government policy that people got. No, we gave people a premium support program where they could buy their own private insurance of their choice, and for the poor, we helped them with support.
I think the challenge here for him, too, is to look as though he is proud of what he's done, that he's not running away from it, but at the same time, he needs to look like he can go on the attack against Obama as well. It's pretty early, obviously. He hasn't even declared his candidacy yet, but the big question will be if he does, will voters buy it?
In Tripoli, Libya, NATO bombs target one of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi's compounds.
We were taken to the Bab al-Azizia compound, which was bombed, heavily bombed by NATO between 3 and 3:30 a.m. our time. I know the exact time because I was still up and working, and the bombs, to tell you the truth, sounded as if they just landed in the garden outside. The Libyan minders took us there today. We were told the bombs were errant and random and had landed in roads within the complex, done some damage to what were described as administrative buildings, and in one case landed on the edge of a children's playground right at the southern tip of the compound. It was a little bit confusing, all of this, until it became more and more apparent. Actually, the target was a huge subterranean complex of tunnels and bunkers beneath the compound, which appears to have been built in the 25 years or so since President Reagan bombed that compound, famously or notoriously, in 1986. Intriguingly, these bombings that occurred came just a couple of hours after Libyan state television showed us the first appearance of Colonel Gaddafi himself in 11 days. So here we have Colonel Gaddafi popping up again, actually in the most unusual circumstances, in this hotel, not more than about 100 feet from where I'm sitting, indeed in the press room, which was cleared out at a moment's notice, literally of faxes, computers. They brought in some tribal leaders. When embraced by the tribal leaders, he looked as if they thought he was as frail as a piece of porcelain. That may have just been respect, of course. The cameras at the event zoomed in on a TV screen, a large TV screen on the wall, to show the date on the screen, simply to prove the contrary of what was beginning to be the widespread rumor in Tripoli, which was that there was something wrong with Colonel Gaddafi, that maybe he'd been injured, even seriously injured, in that previous bombing attack. So that once accomplished, within 2 hours there were these bombings, and there's no doubt that they were using heavy bunker busting bombs. And I have to tell you, if you use a 2,000-pound bomb against a subterranean complex, you have to be intending to kill somebody. And who could they be aiming at principally other than Colonel Gaddafi himself?
And months after the collapse of Hosni Mubarak's rule, crime sweeps Cairo.
We're in the middle of a crime wave here, which has come to threaten the Egyptian revolution. 3 months after street protests forced President Hosni Mubarak from power, for the first time in Cairo, people are afraid to walk in the streets at night. Sectarian riots last weekend that killed 12 people and left 2 churches in flames, the kidnapping of a niece of former President Anwar Sadat, violence against a police officer in the upscale suburb of Mahdi that sent him to the hospital, the kidnapping of a police officer in Sinai, and a wave of jailbreaks across the city. People aren't sure exactly who to blame or what to do about it. Excessive brutality by the police was a main spark of the revolution that drove President Mubarak from power 3 months ago. At that time, demonstrators torched police stations and police cars around the city. Some people say that the repercussions of that are sending mixed signals to the current police officers. The ones who defended their police stations often used excessive force, as they were accustomed to do, and many of them now find themselves in jail after the revolution. Others who fled the scene and went home to bed are doing just fine. So some say, what message are the police supposed to take away from this? After the night of sectarian rioting last weekend, the Prime Minister came out and made an extraordinary declaration. He said this government fully supports the right of the police to use all legal force to defend themselves and their police stations. It was a remarkable statement because, of course, the police were already not only authorized but required to use such force. And it's an indication of just how bad the situation has got here and how the once feared Egyptian police now, in many cases, appear actually quite timid.